Welcome back to Ghana Great and Strong. I'm your host. My name is Papa Kwesi Indom, and this Ghana Great and Strong is sponsored by Gold Coast. Gold Coast Fund Management, Gold Coast Brokerage, the pension, and all of the other aspects, and particularly Gold Coast Capital. It used to be called GGFC, which has been funding infrastructure development, job creation, industry building in Ghana. So has this happened before? The closure of banks, and I'm talking banks in the broader context. Commercial banks, universal banks, and investment banks. Well, you know that in the 1990s, there was a huge concern about the banking sector in Ghana. Some of you may have heard about the non-performing assets, reconstruction, restructuring trusts that was called NPART. N-P-A-R-T. And all sorts of other things happened. But indeed, there was a bank called Bank for Credit and Commerce, which was the Ghanaian subsidiary of BCCI. BCCI was closed by regulators in the UK and the USA. And technically, this Bank for Credit and Commerce, it was taken over by Bank of Ghana. So that happened about 1991. Then the second one was where the local subsidiary of Meridian BIAO, which was closed in 1995. Because, the reasons given is that they had incurred a large foreign exchange exposure to the parent bank. So the Bank of Ghana detected this problem and asked them to take care of it. Well, when the parent bank was put into liquidation on April 1995, Meridian was recapitalized by its local shareholders, SNIT, and the Ghana Reinsurance Company. And it reopened under the name of the Trust Bank. Some of you did not know the origins of the Trust Bank. That's the origin of the Trust Bank that we had in Ghana. Now, as you know, the Trust Bank combined with EcoBank and has become part of EcoBank. But the Trust Bank that we knew, that came from Meridian Bank, a Meridian BIAO, which was closed in 1995. Now, a third one happened when in 1996, this one, some of you may remember, there was a company called Securities Discount Company in 1996, which was put into liquidation. It was put into liquidation even though it was set up in 1991 with equity participation by SNIT and the IFC, GCB, and two of the and CAL and EcoBank. But then it was alleged that it hadn't received a license to operate as a finance house. It had extended credit to one of its directors, and that really half of its loan portfolio has been extended without adequate security. This saw Securities Discount Company was closed down. It was closed down in 1996. So that was three of them at that time. And then in 2000, January 2000, something else happened. And what happened? Well, let me tell you about GN Mobile Money. You know, many people know about other mobile monies, particularly the ones that have been brought successfully to consumers by the telephone companies like MTN, Tigo, Vodafone, and so on and so forth. Well, now there is GN Mobile Money. You can put money in your wallet. You can send money from your wallet to anybody. You can use that wallet to pay for food that you buy from a restaurant, things that you buy from a store, even to pay for a taxi, the ride, and so on and so forth. One important distinguishing feature of GN Mobile Money is that it is network neutral. You can send money from your wallet, your GN Mobile Money wallet, to a Tigo phone, to an MTN phone, to a Vodafone phone. And it works throughout the country. And I would suggest, if you're not already a GN Mobile Money customer, that you find an agent of GN Mobile Money and become a part of this new exciting thing that is happening in Ghana. Well, in the year 2000, what happened is that Ghana government and Central Bank, Bank of Ghana officials got together and closed down the Bank for Housing and Construction and Cooperative Bank. Two banks were closed, January 2000. And indeed, some of the reasons given, and a notice that was posted and dated 17th January 2000, and that was put at the National Headquarters of Cooperative Bank, explained that the bank had been liquidated. And here I want to quote, liquidated because of consistent losses resulting from deterioration of their loan portfolio. And it said that the liabilities of the bank exceed its assets and had affected the ability to satisfy the capital adequacy and minimum capital required under the banking law. Then at that time, it was also said that the two banks had been weighed down heavily by the A-Life supermarket scandal, in which the owner was claimed that the owner had taken some 120 billion old cedis from several banks. And so the central bank ordered their closure, and they eventually collapsed, and bringing down with them and thousands of depositors and so on and so forth. And you know, I can tell you that I was a customer of Bank for Housing and Construction. And at that time, I had traveled, was doing work outside of Ghana when all of this happened. And by the time I got back to Ghana, that whole process of liquidation had taken place, and there was nowhere for me to take my passbook to go and reclaim the money that I had put at the Bank for Housing and Construction, because it had been closed down. And I want you to understand the difference between what happened then and what is happening now. That what is happening now is, in actual fact, a better process and a better system than what happened in the year 2000. The year 2000, those banks were closed. We were at that time dealing more and more with manual banking transactions, and even though there was computerization, there was not a whole lot there. The Bank of Ghana wasn't so clear about the protection that it had to provide to depositors. This time around, the closure of UT Bank and Capital Bank had then resulted in the sale of deposits and other assets to another bank, GCB Bank. So basically, this time around, you are being told you're a customer of Capital Bank, you become a customer of GCB Bank. So that what happened to me in the year 2000 will not happen to you in the year 2017. It's a difference. So we've moved forward and we've seen some improvement in the banking sector. So what I'm saying to you is that it happened. And interestingly enough, a cross-section of the staff of the Bank for Housing and Construction and Cooperative Bank described the action. At that time, it was known as the government that closed them down. Okay, it wasn't so much attributed to the Bank of Ghana, that the action was uncalled for. They claimed that the banks were making profits, that they were doing well, and so on and so forth. And then it turns out that the Minister of Communications at that time was called John Mahama. The John Mahama that became later on President John Mahama. He was the Minister of Communications at that time, and he was the one who was dealing with the communications from between government and other people, the staff, and so on and so forth. So, to answer the question, yes, this has happened before. In the years 2007, 2009, there was a recession throughout the world, and it hit the financial sector hard, globally. So I'm just going to go through, just give you a list, read through to you, a list of some notable financial institutions worldwide that were severely affected. I just want you to know, and I'm doing this so you know that what has happened in Ghana, it does happen. And so we must take care and make sure that it is something that doesn't spread throughout our system. And that, in Ghana it's said that if your neighbor's beard, catches fire, you draw water to, put by yours to ensure that if it threatens you, you take care of it quickly. That's what we want to do. That we want the banks in Ghana to become strengthened, to find ways to deal with the potential threat of financial or capital impairment, what is called capital impairment, that you don't have enough money to run the business, because we need banks, and especially we need Ghanaian-owned banks, locally owned banks, not just to survive, but to thrive, to do well, to become bigger, to become better, so they can fund the needs of industries and individuals in Ghana. We need that very much in Ghana. So some of these institutions were declared solvent, they were liquidated, some were taken over or merged by another financial institution. Let me just give you, in the US, there was a bank called New Century. New Century was it just was liquidated. New Century. There was another one, American Home Mortgage, 2000, also filed for bankruptcy and was liquidated. It wasn't even given to anybody. Then there was a bank called NetBank, also in the US, that was acquired by another bank called ING Direct. Then there was a bank called ABN AMRO. ABN AMRO, also in 2007, ABN AMRO from the Netherlands was acquired by the Royal Bank of Scotland, Fortis, and Grupo Santander. And you know, interestingly enough, the value in this case, the value of this transaction was 70 billion euros. So it's not a little transaction. And in 2008, there was a bank called Northern Rock. Northern Rock was a retail and mortgage bank. The government, the UK government, took it over. Then, some of you know about an investment bank called Bear Stearns from New York. And they were acquired by JP Morgan Chase. And the value, tremendous, to $2.2 billion. In the UK, there was what was known as the Catholic Building Society. It was acquired by the Chelsea Building Society. In the US, there was the Countrywide Financial, which was essentially a mortgage lender in the housing industry. It was acquired by Bank of America. It was acquired at a cost of about $4 billion. Trying to find ones from different, you know, there was Merrill Lynch. The year 2008, Merrill Lynch became part of Bank of America. A transaction that was worth $44 billion. It's an investment bank. Then there was the AIG Group. The AIG Group, in the year 2008, they were acquired by the US government itself, and that one was an insurance company, the AIG Group, and at the cost of $182 billion. And then many of you also remember, Lehman Brothers was there, an investment bank which was acquired by Barclays. There are many of them. Washington Mutual Savings and Loan Association, which was acquired by JP Morgan Chase in the year 2008. I want to find, there was a company, a bank, I used to bank with them in the US called Wachovia. And Wachovia was acquired by a company called Wells Fargo. A bank called Wells Fargo. And it was acquired for a price of $15 billion. Now, these are not, let's say, friendly acquisition that, someone talked to somebody else and they agreed to be acquired. No, they failed and therefore had to be acquired by somebody else. If you go, interestingly enough, you have companies. There was Lloyd's TSB in the UK, which was then also acquired by the UK government. In Switzerland, UBS in Switzerland, which was acquired by the Swiss National Bank and the Federal Administration of Switzerland. What I'm saying to you again and again is that companies, banks, investment banks, universal banks, commercial banks do fail. They do have problems. When they have problems, some of them unfortunately go away. They are closed, or they are closed and acquired by other banks. And see, me try there. One of them was in P Naraho, Colonial Bank, Alabama, bought by BB&T in North Carolina, in the U.S. Guarantee Bank, Texas. Also, we offer the BBVA. Also, Otre. First Federal Bank of California. One West Bank, also California, Otre. $5 billion. Na me pere me kanyi de. Eko biaze ni bibia, so ye America, so ye Britain, so ye Netherlands or Dutch phone group, Germany, bibia of the Bertubra, banki bi no chire. No sik kasam no oya asamba ho. Ena ebi wɔ hɔ a wɔatom koraa, ebi so wɔ hɔ a ne bank foforɔ bi so ɔno so aba abɔtɔ na ɔdze yɛ adwuma. So I'm saying to you that the closure of banks, bank problems, they happen in other parts of the world. It's not just Ghana. And Ghana could see an Assam waba bank for 100. Now let me say there's something else which it has happened, but it hasn't happened so much in Ghana, but happens constantly in other parts of the world. That is not just that the bank is closing, but the banks close branches. So in the UK today, as we are talking about, in the UK recently, the big banks in the UK announced that they were going to close more than 461 branches. More than 461 branches that they will be closed. And then, but the interesting thing, they said they will move many of their operations into online telephone and internet-based banking. Telephone and internet-based banking. More than 461 of them in the UK alone. And now, let me also say that if you now go to the US, between 2009 and 2014, banks in the US closed almost 5,000 branches. 5,000 branches. And what were the reasons given? Costs was too much. Technology was needed. Many people are looking to use technology, online means to bank, use the internet to bank, and so on and so forth. So that is what has been happening. But I also want to say something that many people, if you go to the US, you would find that black-run banks, African American run banks run by our people from our heritage, from Africa, blacks, African Americans, they have struggled financially. And it's become a huge issue because, many of the places where blacks live in the US, some of the banks don't want to go there. Some of the banks don't want to lend to the people there. So if the banks close, then the people are shut out and are denied the kind of banking service that they need. So what are the facts? What I am saying is that back in 2007 was just 10 years or so ago, there were 44 banks. 44 banks with majority African American or black American ownership. It first went to 41. And now as we speak today, that number has gone down to 16, 16, from 41 in 2007 to 16, which means that many of them closed down completely. Some of them sold to some other banks. And there's one that I am very much familiar with because some of us tried to assist that bank and tried to even acquire some of the assets of that bank. And the bank I'm talking about was called Seaway Bank and Trust Company of Chicago in the US. It used to be a big bank. It used to have assets of more than $600 million. One day, the regulators went to the bank 5 p.m. on a Friday, January 27th, 2017, and locked the doors. Got management and employees together and told them, bank is closed. Bank is closed. And that on Monday, the bank will reopen because they had sold the assets of that bank in Chicago to another bank from Texas. Closed down. Black bank closed down, given to another bank that is not black owned. Gone. So once again, I'm saying to you, what has happened to Capital Bank, UT Bank, not unusual. When the conditions are there, the results, the same results will happen. So what are some of the reasons? We can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There may be more. Okay, and then some of these 10 that I want to mention to you are also related. But to me, the first and foremost one is management lapses, management difficulties, problems caused by management. Because you see, if you're a shareholder, if you're an investor, and you invest in a bank, you give the bank to management and say, manage it on a day-to-day basis for me. So if management is not able to organize the operations of a bank well, if management is not able to protect the assets of the bank well, the result will be difficulties. And the difficulties usually turn into financial difficulties. Financial difficulties tend to affect the capital of the bank. And then the bank has problems. So the quality of management at a bank is crucial, is important. You get the wrong people, you get the wrong results. Bad things happen. So that's number one. And number two, sometimes you have bad customers. Yes, you have bad management, but then you can also have bad customers, because there are always some customers who are figuring out a way to scam the bank, to do the wrong things. Some people, they come to get a loan. They know they have to provide some collateral. They know that the collateral doesn't belong to them. Somebody will somehow find the papers, the documents for a house or a building or a business or something that doesn't belong to them, that belongs to somebody else. They bring it to you to use as collateral for a loan. And then when a problem comes, then there's no fallback. Or sometimes you have customers who use wrongful means to come and claim money that doesn't belong to them. Some of the customers come to get a loan knowing very well that they do not intend to pay the money back. So yes, the bank may be there, management may be there, but you may have a bad customer with bad intentions and brings you problems. And then, sometimes it takes two. It takes two to create a problem for a bank. So there's collusion. So sometimes somebody from the outside will collude, join with somebody from the inside of a bank. So even if they haven't brought money to make a deposit, somebody inside says, they brought 200,000 Ghana cedis, when it is not true. Then if the person inside is able to falsify the records to show that there is money when no cash was presented, the bank loses money. So collusion, fraud between the people from the outside and the inside. And then sometimes also people inside the bank, not watched carefully, also will engage in fraudulent acts. Go and say that, I've got all the papers for this loan, and it's correct when it is not correct. I know this person when they don't know that person. Or create a false company to come and get a loan, knowing that that company doesn't really exist and that that loan will not be paid for. Collusion, fraud. These things, they happen and they sometimes lead to the closure of a bank. Then some banks fail to modernize. Some banks waited for a long time before they computerized. Then other banks, their computer systems are old, but they would not update them to keep up with modern times. Some people know that now debit cards are in use, credit cards are in use, mobile banking is in, internet banking is there, but they pretend they don't know that these things exist. So the customers leave and they go somewhere else where they can get modern conveniences. So when a bank fails to modernize, it can lead to the business going bad. When the business goes bad, then the bank can go away, can be closed, can be acquired. Well, when the bank does so many other things, then this is my reason number 5, that the bank then faces losses that are unplanned. Usually when a bank starts, they allow some time for the bank to go from loss to profits. But then if it persists that they are making losses, well, when a bank makes losses, where does it go? It affects your capital. Affects your capital. Your capital reduces. But when the capital reduces to the level where you cannot sustain the security and safety of depositors' money, then you have problems. So losses, and losses can be caused by a number of different things, and which leads to my 6th point, that you can sustain losses because you have too many branches or too many people or too much overhead costs. If you're not watching your costs, you can lead to losses. And then on the other side, which is reason number 7, if you don't find ways to make money legitimately, well, if you're not making money, but you have people, you have equipment to operate, you have branches to operate, and so on and so forth. Well, if you're not making money, you're just spending money, incurring costs, and then you have losses. Losses then go to affect your capital. And then the one thing that many people, go through is bad loans. Bad loans. If you make bad loans, or if you give loans to people who don't have the ability to pay, or people who tend to turn around to become people whose businesses don't generate enough money to pay you back the loan, you don't just come up with losses, okay? But you have to write off the loans. If you write them off, the monies don't just go away. Let's suppose that you start a bank with capital of 200 million Ghana cedis. But then you go and give loans by 500 million Ghana cedis because you have deposits of 1 billion Ghana cedis. Well, if out of the 500 million Ghana cedi loans, 300 million of it goes bad, first of all, your capital is 200 million. So the 300 million will be written off. If it is written off, your capital is gone. Now it's in deficit of 100 million. Where is that deficit hitting? It is now going to eat into depositors' money, that 1 billion Ghana cedis of depositors' money. It means that your capital is not sufficient. It has been, as they say in the banking sector, impaired, and impaired in a bad, significant way. When that happens, the bank cannot be sustained, cannot be allowed to continue. So either gets closed or someone acquires the deposits so that the depositors' money can be saved. So that becomes a problem. Now sometimes these situations also result because of what is called insider trading. That they may be shareholders, they may be directors, there may be management who they are inside the bank and they give loans to themselves. If they give loans to themselves and the conditions are not right, well, it can lead to losses. If they can't pay the loans back, if they can't pay the loans back, well, the same thing happens. Capital goes down. If capital is eroded or goes away, then it will threaten depositors' money. Then the regulator will say, hey, this thing can't go on. When all of this happens and capital is impaired, as is the reason cited for the closure of Bank for Housing and Construction, the closure of Cooperative Bank, the selling of the assets of Capital Bank, selling of the assets of UT Bank, then there's one thing that the central bank asks for. Find new capital, bring new money. But if you are unwilling or unable to find new money, bring new investors, bring new shareholders, put additional money on the table, well then the bank cannot continue. Then the bank is not allowed to continue. Then the central bank, whether it's Bank of Ghana or England or whichever one, would have no other choice but to say, close it down, let's find a buyer if possible. 10 reasons, some of the reasons why a bank can face closure, can be shut down, can lose its license. American na day. And when you see phone, the one share bank do managers. So managers when you bank asambotun. So the bossam one only there was the bossam one. So Wolfie Bank na ni munara another Wolfie baby no waba. Nso wanye hwehwem ni ne wentum wentua loan na bank no utum ogu no yeye anaso ogu ni mo yeye se enzama afoforo ba da mande internet wo ho ende mobile money wo ho ende debit card na adze wo ho na se awo se ye bank na se enzama afoforo na wodi baka woda da omunara when you your customers or could be for and I was wage mono wakufo say I will intum na enyesika mfamba bank nim na wozi sikaniza na wozi na wofa mhimpa fofor wofa bi aka ho na what cars we endama ahoropi all this can roko ne ibimba bank ne sika samno ihia babado afin so se nzama nkoyi na sa nkohwe ibinum so mo anfa sika ba hye edwuma no ma no bank no aboka yin. So I hope what we have been able to do this evening is to let everybody know that what has happened to UT Bank and to Capital Bank, first and foremost, it is not something new in the Ghanaian banking sector. It has happened before. Meridian, Bank for Commerce, Cooperative Bank, Bank for Housing and Construction. And also, that is not new in the world. That in the world over, banks have been closed, banks have been sold, banks have been acquired under difficult circumstances. And there are reasons that cause these difficulties. But we in Ghana, what we want is to make sure that the banks that remain, that those banks, including GN Bank, that those banks take steps to make sure that they are properly managed, that they take good advantage of modern technology, that they bring good, disciplined personnel to work there, that when there are difficulties, that they bring new money to make sure the banks are strong, and that when they give loans, they are careful in giving loans to the right people who will engage in good businesses so that they are able to pay the monies back. We want our banks, especially the Ghanaian-owned banks, to become great, to become strong, so that they can support so that our country, Ghana, becomes great and strong and our people prosperous. This is where we leave our program this evening. Ghana, great and strong, supported by Gold Coast's fund management, brokerage, pension, provident fund management, Gold Coast Capital, and then brought to you also by GN Mobile Money, the one that is network neutral. You can send money to any network, Vodafone, MTN, Tigo, and the rest. You can use it to buy phone credit units to give to people, and you can use it to pay for goods and services that you buy at restaurant, store, in a taxi, anywhere. I want to thank the producers at ATV and all the different radio stations that are carrying this, the television stations that are carrying this, and the technical people especially who have helped to bring this in all of these media houses to you, my listener, to you, my viewer. My name is Papa Kwesi Indo, and I have been your host.
Serieyo,